Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Charlene Aaron. Today, more brutal Russian attacks in Ukraine with a missile strike killing at least 7 in the city of Lviv. And you may not believe who's supporting the Russia invasion. Iran issuing a warning to Israel that they will strike back against the Tel Aviv if they believe Israel is making even, quote, the tiniest move against Iran. Plus, it seems impossible, but there are date palm trees sprouting from seeds that are 2,000 years old.
The classical writers described in detail the dates of ancient Judea. Why? Because they were famous.
Plus, black women more likely to have problems in their pregnancy than white women. Now there is an effort to raise awareness.
I had internal bleeding that was not controllable. I had 23 transfusions, and my son, unfortunately, suffered some brain damage.
All of these stories and more coming up next from the CBN Newsroom.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin with the war in Ukraine, where a Russian missile strike on the city of Lviv has left at least 7 dead and 11 injured, while defenders in the city of Mariupol have vowed to never give up in the face of a siege by the Russian army. As the Kremlin keeps up its military attacks, one of the supporters of the Russian invasion is the head of the Russian Orthodox Church. Dale Hurd explains why.
Plumes of thick black smoke rose over the city of Lviv today from multiple explosions caused by 4 Russian missile strikes. Reportedly among the dead was a 4-year-old child. Meanwhile, in the port city of Mariupol, surrounded by Russian forces, a small number of Ukrainian fighters are hanging on, as Ukraine's president says the outcome could change the course of the entire war. The Russian army says about 2,500 Ukrainian fighters are holed up inside this sprawling steel plant, the final pocket of the city's resistance.
We will fight absolutely till the end, till the win in this war.
Bodies lay out in the open as residents like this woman and her nieces try to flee. Their mother went to get diapers and disappeared, she says. We don't know where she is. Thousands remain trapped without food and water. In the face of all this suffering, it might surprise many in the West to learn that Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has the enthusiastic support of the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill. A close ally of Putin, Kirill continues to preach that Russian believers should support the war in Ukraine as a holy mission.
This dates back around 10 years ago, at the beginning of Putin's 3rd term. Patriarch Kirill, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, began working in tandem with Putin, kind of having the Russian Orthodox Church operate as a form of soft power for Putin in the region.
Earlier this month, Kirill delivered a sermon to Russian military leaders in a cathedral dedicated to Russia's armed forces. According to a report from Religion Dispatches, the Patriarch referred to a version of history that sees no distinction between Russia and Ukraine, essentially not recognizing Ukraine's existence as an independent nation, and did not even recognize Ukrainians as a separate people by referring to all involved in the conflict as holy Russians. Kirill has preached that it is God's truth that the people of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus should be reunited as one spiritual people. This is Putin's doctrine of Ruski Mir, or Russian world, which holds that ancient Russia must be reunited, and Moscow has the right to dominate its neighbors.
Kirill started preaching an ideology, this idea of a Russian world, or particularly a holy Rus, this sort of transnational Russian sphere of civilization that included Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and some other parts of Eastern Europe. And where the idea would be that Moscow was the political center.
And while Vladimir Putin was a Soviet KGB agent, records from the Cold War revealed Patriarch Kirill was a KGB spy during Soviet times. Kirill has described Putin's leadership of Russia as a religious miracle, while Putin critic Mikhail Khodorkovsky says Putin sees for himself a prospect of being kind of a messiah, a person who unites the whole Russian-speaking world. And for Patriarch Kirill, Vladimir Putin is God's instrument to fight against the decadent West. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Despite today's missile attack on Lviv, the city has been peaceful recently. As the warfare rages, millions of Ukrainians have had to flee their homes and become refugees. And as Wendy Griffith reports, CBN's Orphans Promise is on the scene providing refugee shelters.
Here in Lviv, a city of about 1 million people, you'd never know a bloody war is raging just hundreds of miles east of here. The cafes are crowded, the shops are open, and people seem to be enjoying life. But despite appearances, the war is still on everyone's mind.
For sure, I'm worried because of my strong makeup, you can see my real emotions. Because every day we are crying when we check all news. Every day we are worried about our future of country, and yeah, we're really hoping that everything will end soon.
Among those not leaving is Orphans Promise, which has turned all of their centers here in Ukraine into refugee shelters and vows to stay and help as many Ukrainians as they can.
We are trying to do what we can do. We cannot to save everyone, but the most important part of our job is to share good news. We are trying to share good news in this time, because all people are open to accept Jesus, and we have so many people who accepted Jesus in this time.
The fighting spirit is alive and well here in Ukraine as people continue to hope and pray that this war will soon end. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Lviv, Ukraine.
CBN's Operation Blessing is also on the scene to help those in need. You can help Orphans Promise and Operation Blessing in our disaster relief efforts. Call 1-800-700-7000 and say that you want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of your check. And you can also text us. Just text OB Crisis to 71777. Or you can go to our websites at cbn.com, ob.org, or orphanspromise.org. Anything that you can do to help will be greatly appreciated. Well, the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, issued a warning to Israel today, saying, quote, the center of the Zionist regime, meaning Tel Aviv, will be targeted by Iran's armed forces if Israel makes, quote, the tiniest move against Iran. Raisi addressed Israel directly during a speech at an annual parade of Iran's armed forces. He spoke as talks stalled in Vienna over a deal to rein in Iran's nuclear capabilities, which Tehran says are used for peaceful purposes. Israel opposes a deal, saying it does not do enough to curb Iran's nuclear program or its military activities across the region. Israeli officials have said they will unilaterally do what's necessary to protect their country. Well, for the first time in decades, the Muslim month of Ramadan, the Jewish celebration of Passover, and the Christian remembrance of Easter fell on the same days. Yet the celebrations have been marred in violence, where for several days Muslims have rioted on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Israeli police entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound on Sunday, 2 days after clashes with Palestinians. The police said they entered the area to allow the routine visit of Jews to the holy site. They said Palestinians had stockpiled stones and set up barriers in anticipation of violence, and footage provided by the police showed fireworks being thrown inside. The police said they were committed to facilitating freedom of worship for Jews and Muslims. Meanwhile, a more peaceful event Sunday in Jerusalem as hundreds of worshipers gathered in Jerusalem's Garden Tomb, the site where many believe Jesus was buried and rose from the dead. Simon Holland from the Garden Tomb led those gathered in the ancient traditional Easter greeting for Christians on Resurrection Day.
We declare to Jerusalem, the Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia. And we declare to the nations, the Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia.
Hallelujah. Well, CBN streamed the service, and if you would like to see the entire Easter sunrise service, you can log on to cbnnews.com. Coming up, we're headed to Israel to get a look at date palms sprouted from a seed that's 2,000 years old. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Just imagine trees sprouting from seeds that are 2,000 years old. Seems impossible, but it's not. In the middle of Israel's Arava Desert, botanists have taken ancient date palm seeds and nurtured them to life. And now those palms are bearing fruit. Here's Chris Mitchell with more.
This little young-looking palm tree named Judith carries an ancient heritage.
We're talking about the resurrection of 2,000-year-old plus ancient date seeds that come from the Judean desert and from Masada, and which are part of a scientific experiment.
Growing in a greenhouse for the last 9 years, Judith was recently transplanted in what Kibbutz Keturah calls the ancient Judean date orchard. Journalists even pitched in to help. She's the 5th such tree to be planted there after Methuselah, Adam, Jonah, and Hannah.
We are planting our 2nd female date tree who was sprouted from an ancient seed. Actually, this one came from Qumran, was found in the caves, and much to our astonishment, she also sprouted.
Hannah is the first female tree. She was planted outside in 2019, pollinated by Methuselah. Hannah had around 100 dates last year. This year, she had more than 600. Dr. Sarah Salone, a medical doctor, started this project more than 15 years ago after becoming interested in natural medicine.
I wanted to see how medicinal the flora of Israel was and what it had been used for and so on. And then I realized that many of these species had actually disappeared. And we know what there was because it's mentioned in the Bible. The Bible is our guidebook of ancient species.
One that disappeared centuries ago was the Judean date. It's mentioned in the Bible as one of the 7 species found in the ancient land of Israel.
We see dates all the way along here, palm trees, and all the kibbutzim are growing plants, and look at the plantations on Keturah. Those date palms of modern-day Israel are modern, and they were imported after the founding of the state in the 1950s, but they're not the original date tree that grew here.
Years ago at Masada, archaeologists found a jar of those ancient date seeds.
In ancient times, the classical writers described in detail the dates of ancient Judea. Why? Because they were famous. They were big, they were sweet, they were very dry, that allowed them to be exported all over the Roman Empire, and they had medicinal qualities.
Salone obtained 5 of those original seeds and gave them to botanist Dr. Elaine Soloway. After devising a method to sprout them, Soloway has succeeded in sprouting seeds found in other places, such as the Qumran caves, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found.
I think the biggest problem is hydrating them, because if you hydrate them too quickly, you kill them, and you only get one crack in each seed. So far, we have 5 males and 2 females, 7 altogether. And I've tried lots of seeds, and most of them are deader than doornails.
15 years ago, the first tree Soloway sprouted was a male. They called him Methuselah, after the oldest person in the Bible. CBN News got its first look 10 years ago when Methuselah was still in the lab. More than 850,000 date trees grow in Israel. Soloway planted some 3,000 of them on Kibbutz Keturah, where each tree produces around 350 pounds of dates a year. Soloway and Salone are hoping eventually to add the revived Judean dates to the harvest.
We're going to be testing those dates in the future to see actually what they do and whether they differ from other commercial varieties of modern dates. So for the kibbutz, it's a big venture.
Dr. Tariq Abu Hamad, director of the Arava Institute, sees this as planting seeds from the past to bear a special kind of needed fruit for the future.
If you don't look back to the history, you will not see the future. And here we're actually planting history at the Arava Institute. We hope one day that with these trees that came from 2,000 years ago will be the hope of peace in our region.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News.
Still ahead, shocking numbers from the CDC. Black women are at a higher risk of dying during pregnancy than white women. We'll have the story coming up.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Last week was designated Black Maternal Health Week in an effort to raise awareness of the issue. Medical reporter Lori Johnson explains what's at stake and what's being done to help save lives.
Push his ears. Many people don't realize African American women have a greater risk in the earliest stages of motherhood. Even Black women themselves, like Danielle Bryant, are too often unaware of the threats.
So I had never associated a life-threatening situation with pregnancy and delivery.
Danielle learned the truth firsthand as she was rushed to the hospital in labor at just 6.5 months pregnant.
I had internal bleeding that was not controllable. I had 23 transfusions, and my son, unfortunately, he suffered some brain damage.
Danielle's mother stayed by her daughter's side.
And I immediately started calling people to pray with me and to pray for her, because I realized that something serious was going on, and found out later that she was at death's door.
The CDC says Black women face unusual hardships when it comes to having a baby, regardless of income or education.
We know that Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women. And Black women are also significantly more likely to have a severe health complication at the time of delivery. It's just really important for us to understand that these pregnancy-related deaths, 2 out of 3 are preventable.
2 all too common conditions among Black women that need to be addressed are fibroids, benign uterine tumors that can cause severe bleeding, and preeclampsia, high blood pressure that can be fatal. Black women can also suffer a premature deterioration of overall health due to chronic race-based stress.
And we know that these historical disadvantages that are experienced for Black and Native American women sort of weigh on them over time to something that's called a weathering hypothesis.
Studies show Black infants are more likely than white babies to be stillborn, born premature with low birth weight, and to die before their first birthday. Those born before 32 weeks also experience more brain issues. Not all hospitals offer the same level of service. 75% of African American women give birth at hospitals that serve predominantly Black populations. And as it turns out, these hospitals generally provide lower quality maternal care. Patient studies and experiences also point to racism among some healthcare providers.
I have experienced bias and racial bias, and I have I had a stillborn child. Her name was Kennedy. And when I was pregnant with my second daughter, who did survive, Riley, I experienced so much bias that I had to switch doctors in the middle of my pregnancy at 6 months.
Her loss prompted Heather Wilson to start a nonprofit called Kennedy's Angel Gowns, making burial clothes for babies lost during pregnancy. And the prejudice she felt made her reach out on social media to see if other Black moms could relate. Overwhelmed by responses, Heather started an online support group.
When you reach out and women are having the same exact experiences, you can't help but think this is not a coincidence.
A 2016 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academies of Science revealed half of medical students and resident physicians held false beliefs, such as Black people's nerve endings are less sensitive, skin is thicker, and blood coagulates more than white people's. In 2021, Wilson joined a Black maternal health roundtable discussion with Vice President Kamala Harris.
What's the source of the anger and the sadness, and what are those conversations? Not being heard
is the number one thing I hear. They're not listening to me, and oftentimes it's too late.
The Biden administration has proposed increased spending to improve Black maternal health, such as providing Medicaid coverage for up to a year after giving birth and paying for personal advocacy workers called doulas. Since that proposal was part of the defeated Build Back Better bill, its future remains uncertain. Meanwhile, medical schools now incorporate anti-bias training into their curriculum, and many healthcare agencies take advantage of free online courses offered through the Health and Human Services Department. Elsewhere, the CDC website offers lots of pregnancy-related information for Black women, such as how to recognize warning signs and guidelines to choosing the right hospital and doctor.
You have the right to interview your doctors, ask them the questions that you need to know. I would even ask, especially as a Black woman, what kind of experiences have you seen, do you have with people like me?
So while these various issues facing Black women can lead to devastating consequences, African American mothers are drawing attention to their plight and are fighting for change. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Coming up, see how this young man was able to relearn the basics of life by playing chess.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Your news channel. Your shows. The stories you care about. Anytime you want. Anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Former chess champion Bobby Fischer once said, chess is life. Chess helped Griffin McConnell, a 17-year-old from Colorado, relearn the basics of life after enduring 4 brain surgeries to treat seizures. He learned how to walk, to talk, and even play chess. But he says the game came the easiest. After plenty of matches and even another surgery, McConnell is now the Scholastic State champ and a national master. He's even started his own nonprofit to help others with disabilities play chess, saying he hopes that it is an inspiration to them. That's awesome. And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen today by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you have a great day. Join us next time. God bless you.